So, Justin, our last podcast was really more about ESPN. We didn't really get to talk about everything that we wanted to talk about in terms of the world of sports, which is the very nature of what we want this podcast to do. I might have gone on a little too many rants in terms of just like how political ESPN's got.
Sports.
And I know that's not your, forte.
I'll listen to you rant anytime, buddy.
Oh, thank you. And if you want to listen to me rant anytime, then you should hit the subscribe button. This is Loud and Drunk Sports. We are part of a louder and drunker network. And if you like, our conversations, our sports talk, don't forget to, hit the like button and leave a comment and get in on the conversation, because if you say something that you think I'm right on, wrong on, something that you agree with Justin on, let us know, because we'll get back to you, and maybe that can be a part of another episode. Justin, I liken two of our favorite teams as being very similar, and that is the Miami Dolphins and the New York Mets.
Ooh.
Very rarely, though, do I get to have that early season rush. Like a couple seasons ago, the Dolphins were very good in the very beginning of the season. The Mets this year seem to be fucking killing it.
And how, my man.
So I figure it's time for Home Runs with Justin. I don't know if that's actually a segment we'll call it, but Justin, how have you been evaluating the season? What have you liked? What have you disliked so far? Because as far as I know, the Braves have been bad. I don't know how the Phillies have been doing, but it seems like the Mets have been doing very, very well.
So I will start off with the Braves. The Braves were shitting the bed very early this year, which was nice. As a Mets fan, you really want to see the Braves fail, because they've always been a very good team. They've always come back and seem how like they're always going to win that pennant in that with what they're doing. They're just that good. Also, in the Phillies. Actually, let me get back on the Braves for a second. The Braves, so they shit the bed earlier in the year. Now, obviously, we're in May now. April was not a good month for the Braves, but the Braves are kind of coming back now a little bit, so that's a little bit worrisome. The Phillies, I think they're like a 50% ball club right now, but they were named to win the pennant this year. So
I know there was a lot of expectations on the Phillies because they weren't they the best team in baseball last year, or at least in the NL?
If they were, the Mets beat them in the playoffs. So
yes, I know that.
That's nice.
I know you were. That was actually a series that I was actually kind of interested in, because it's a rivalry. So I'm like, I'll pay attention to as much as this as I can in terms of baseball. But I know that was like, your absolute coup de grace. Like you were
to watch the Mets beat the Phillies in the playoffs. Is something special, honestly. And if we only just could have beat the Yankees in the World Series, but that wasn't planned that year. But this year it could possibly be a thing.
Correction, you guys lost to the Dodgers.
Oh no, I just meant like if the Mets could have beat the Yankees in the Subway Series, that would have been like, I could probably die a happy man.
Okay.
Well, then again, I need to see the Devils.
Okay,
win.
I just wanted to clear that up, because I don't want somebody to be like, oh, the Mets didn't play the Yankees in the World Series last year.
Oh, no, they did not. No. But we're talking Mets here, baby.
Yeah.
So this year we got Soto. So we got Juan fucking Soto. So that's fantastic. He's definitely been on a slow start this year, which is okay, because he's Juan Soto. He's a young player. He's going to get back into his groove. Which actually he started last night with 2 home runs in a game. Just two single home runs, no one on base. But they did lose, but that's a good sign though. 2 home runs at Citi Field, that's nice.
Yeah, you just want to get him going.
I think he's finally starting to get going. The other thing is, there's a couple things. The pitching has been surprising. They're trying to take Clay Holmes, who used to be a relief pitcher, and they turned him into a starting pitcher. He's been doing a pretty damn good job, honestly.
Where do they have him in the rotation?
Oh, he's a starting pitcher. I don't know. I mean, obviously, one of 5, but okay. I think so with the Mets now, because Kodai Senga likes to have 6 days of rest.
Yeah.
So they're pushing the rotation to 6 days, which I don't love that, because when you have starters that really want to have their every 5 days, they're pushing it 6 now, and now they're doing what's called a bullpen game. I don't love the bullpen game, so they're literally taking relievers and putting them in there for 3 innings. Whoever can get in there and wing it for as long as they can, just to fill that day.
Oh,
it's tough. It's a tough one to watch. I feel like the Mets usually lose that game,
and that's a part of like the load management they're doing with MLB pitchers now, right?
Yep.
Like you do the pitch count. Load management really seems to be the terminology for the NBA. So I apologize if I got that wrong.
No, I think you got it.
But like the pitch, they do the pitch count. So you've pitched like 100 times, time to take you out of the game, which is like, wait. It's only the 5th inning.
Yeah, and if you ever thought about Nolan Ryan could just throw like 300 pitches every single game for like every 4 days or some shit.
Will anybody ever pitch a perfect game with that kind of precaution?
That's a great question. I don't know, honestly. I feel like yes, because if someone's got that game going, as long as it is, then they're going to push them because the pitcher wants it, the team wants it. And it's good for everybody if that happens.
Yeah, I understand. But if you're dead set on this like money ball aspect of like we gotta rest them and all that stuff, then it's like, well, he's pitching a perfect game, but we can't afford to like overexert the pitcher. So it just depends on, I guess, on what dichotomy the manager for that team goes for or whatever. But I know that's been a hot button issue in baseball. It's just
how he's doing. Is usually if a pitcher's like throwing fire, he's ready. He's in it to win it, baby.
Yeah.
A couple other things. Pete Alonso, wow, Pete Alonso, I cannot believe that you are the Pete Alonso this year that you are. Fucking polar bear. With the Mets signing him this year for whatever deal he got that just seemed like it was never going to happen, and now we have you, and you exceeded all the expectations. Now, mind you, we just finished April. Now here we are in May. We'll see what May brings the Mets, because April was great, but. I mean, baseball's baseball. That's how it works. But Pete Alonso, what do I have here? He's got he's right up there with I think he's top 3 in RBIs right now. I think I looked earlier. He has 27. Wilmer Flores, of all you Mets fans out there, Wilmer Flores on the San Francisco Giants has the most RBIs in MLB. Who fucking would have thought that? That's insane. More than Aaron Judge, who is second at either he's tied at 28 or he has 27. Next thing I want to talk about is Brandon Nimmo. Finally, well, not finally, but he just tied the Mets record for RBIs in a game. I think it was 2 or 3 nights ago. First he hits a grand slam, or no, I'm sorry. First he hits a 3-run home run. Then he hits a grand slam. Then he hits a 2-run double, which could have been a 3-run if it didn't bounce off the weird wall behind first base, and he would have had the record. The record was set in 2008 by Carlos Delgado, so he ties that. Pretty fucking cool. So the Mets are booming, baby. It's really nice to see. I'm loving baseball. My lady hates that baseball's on constantly, but. That's it. That's it. That's where we're at.
So, I had a question for you because I don't know that much about the Mets in terms of what they're doing and all that stuff, and I also don't know a whole lot. I know about baseball. I know about the game, but I just don't keep up on Major League Baseball and all that stuff. But Senga, I remember from, I think it was the Phillies series, because I think he had just come back because he'd been hurt all
year. Yep.
And I remember texting you that your ace pitcher is shitting the bed right now.
He also pitched like once that year.
Yeah. But it's also at the same time, like it's like a gamble to bring him back for that type of thing. So like obviously there was probably a little bit of rust in there. How has he been playing this year? Because I know that you said I think you said before that he's been playing well, but with the 6 days of rest that you were saying, is it worth that?
I think it is. So I think because I've been watching a lot lately, from what I understand, I'll throw out a little fact. The Mets hadn't given up a home run yet. Mm-hmm. Starting pitching, I should say, hadn't given up a home run as of a couple days ago. And that was like almost all of April, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
Kodai Senga has given up 2. since then. So I think he's the only pitcher, but I mean, obviously it's gonna happen. It's baseball. But Kodai Senga's ghost forkball is that shit drops off the table. Like it's a pitch that it's coming straight at you like it's gonna be a strike, and then whoop straight down, and you're whiffing on it every time. He's in there. He's doing a thing.
So he was injured last year. Do you have any concerns that like that injury might come back, or he's like he might be a little brittle? I don't know what his injury history is, so I'm interested to see if like he's a guy that can be like, I know the 6-day rotation doesn't reflect a workhorse, but for the play, if the Mets make the playoffs, if they continue to play well and they don't get jumped by the Braves and Phillies, and they make the playoffs, is he the type of guy that you can be like, all right, we're going to pitch you in game 1, 4, and 7? Like, you're not getting that rest anymore because we need to win these games.
That's a good question, only because the majority of his playing time was in in Asia or where Japan. And that's so over there. They, from what I understand, it's much different than over here. So he was basically in control of his own body, and how if it didn't feel right for him, he wasn't pitching. Which is basically how it was over there. Like if he said no go, there was no go. Now he finally is realizing that it's much different over here, but the Mets are willing to be okay with what Kodai wants, Kodai gets. So 6 days, it seems like that's really working for him, and he's been pretty lights out. But I can't say, I don't know, because I mean last year when the playoffs, I don't remember how much he pitched in the playoffs. I just can't remember that statistic. But off of him for a second. Hopefully the Mets are going to get Sean Manaea back, who was their ace last year, lefty who threw fantastic, and Frankie Montas. So we'll see what happens. It's hopefully they go over expectations and fucking do this thing.
It's early in the season. There's like 100 games. I don't know how many games are left. 120.
Oh yeah, at least.
What do you think? Because I'm gonna pretty much ask you to make like some sort of way too early to call prediction.
Oh boy.
Maybe prediction is the wrong word. What can you see being the one thing that the Mets, in order to do a playoff run, like a long playoff run, get to the World Series, what do they need to get over the hump? Like they're playing well, but like what's the glaring issue that you think they have that they need to like get to the World Series?
Great question. They need Mark Vientos to start hitting. Last year, that's our third baseman that kind of came up and took over Brett Beatty's spot. Well, Brett Beatty wasn't even really in the mix, and he's just a flash in the pan. He's gone, or he needs to be gone. But Mark Vientos really needs to step up and be the guy that he was last year. He really took control last year and stepped up big time. Our catcher Francisco Alvarez really needs to play a little better. Play a little better ball. Needs to get a little poke. Needs to just hit the ball. Just needs to get on base. Our backup catcher, which the Mets are playing like a 2-catcher thing right now. Torres. I can't remember his first name. Man, somebody who tries to steal on Torres, that dude is lights out. He is winging the ball at second, and he's getting him out. Other than that, they just need to continue hitting the ball, stealing bases. Francisco, I feel like I'm blanking on our shortstop, Francisco. He's going to be our captain. He's been killing it this year. He's going to continue killing it. Other than that, let's see. I don't really know. We need our designated hitters to step up, which Starling Marte, who's technically my favorite Met, who's not an everyday player anymore. That's okay because Juan Soto took it and he needs to step up. Other than that, everyone needs to do their job.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's it. We have the pitching, we have hitting when it needs to be. Alonso's killing it.
Based on that, then it seems to me, maybe this is a bad interpretation on my end. Hitting. is sort of like where the Mets need to improve upon to make that deep run. You're not worried about pitching and fielding.
Yay and nay on the hitting. No, I feel like the Mets are getting hits.
Okay.
Mets are getting hits. I'm a little. I guess I probably should have said closing pitching.
Okay.
Closing the game. Edwin Diaz is always shaky. That guy will always like load the bases up before he strikes out 3 batters. He's always making it so interesting before it, and it's like nail biting, sitting on the edge of your seat. Damn it! What are we doing again, Diaz? Like, come on, like. But Lindor always figures out a way to, hit a walk-off home run or something. So he's, they got it. They got it.
All right, Justin, you got the Met.
I needed to get it out. I really appreciate it. This is my time to rant. Like I can't rant about the Devils the way I can rant about the Mets because I don't know. Let's go.
Well, I mean, they had at least they made the playoffs. They did, they got ceremoniously dumped by the Carolina Hurricanes. But that was always going to be a difficult series.
Kind of knew that was going to happen, honestly.
The Hurricanes are a team that makes the playoffs pretty much every season.
Injuries.
Yeah.
Injuries, big time.
Missed, and they don't have Jack Hughes, excuse me. And so, it was kind of like they really need, I think the way I phrased it to you when we were just hanging out, having a couple drinks, they needed Markstrom to, steal a couple games. And, Markstrom is, one of those borderline players that, maybe he could steal a game, but that's asking a lot. It's not like prime Jonathan Quick or prime Henrik Lundqvist when you kind of know he's going to steal you a game, or even Dominic Hasek, who can steal you everything.
Well, I could tell you just a tidbit with the Devils. During that playoff run, the Devils couldn't even bring in the zone. They were playing the dump and chase or the whole time, and the way that Carolina's defense is, once you dump it, they bottleneck and they shut you out, and then you can't go get it. That's what they were playing the entire time. But then when you watch them they would bring the puck right into the Devil's zone every single time, no problem. So I'll commend Carolina for that. I think they did that last year or so, or 2 years ago. Watching them, they did it, but the Devils were able to beat them that year, but not this year.
Yeah, I mean, you were right with the injuries. Jack Hughes got beat up in that Four Nations face-off. At least he did in service of his country. So you're just dealt a bad hand. I know a lot of guys came back from that tournament beat up, like Matthew Tkachuk was beat up. Brady Tkachuk was beat up.
Groin, right?
Yeah. So you kind of take the lumps with that kind of international play. I know, the owners aren't really happy. It's just we're not making it. Well, that's attached to the NHL, so they're probably making some money. But for the Olympics next year, they're not going to be happy if someone gets hurt playing there, because the NHL really doesn't get anything out of the deal other than publicity from your players going over there, and they'd be like, oh, you can watch these guys play, in the regular season when this is over. But it's also a come down, because elevated play for that Four Nations face-off, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, now we're playing Utah.
Utah. Hey, I wanted to ask you before we move on. Did you watch? I totally forgot. Did you watch any of the 18 and younger?
I've been all over it.
Yeah,
yeah.
How was it in a nutshell?
I enjoy it. I've only watched the USA games because I have to switch over to ESPN Plus to watch the other games, and they do a really bad job of bracking, putting these things into their proper categories. I tried to just see let's see if IIHF is in here, and it's not. So great. Now I can't even find it. I got to go through NHL games to find it, and it disappears after a while. But look, I'm telling a short story long. I enjoy it. So as we're recording this, the tournament is not yet over.
Okay.
The team, the under-18 Team USA, you're going to expect this with the under-18 tournament. Mistakes, because they're kids. They're 17 and younger.
I did see there was one highlight of one crazy goal. I don't know who it was, but it was he busted down the left side and hit one at in a nowhere shot, and it was awesome.
Well, I mean, USA Hockey has a great. I don't know in particular if you're referencing a USA game or a Canada game or something. I haven't been able to watch.
Might have been USA. I don't know.
But USA Hockey has a great developmental program. Like in the under 18 tournament, USA Hockey has won the most amount of medals and the most amount of gold medals, which is unprecedented in any sort of hockey play. And then when they're playing the World Junior Championships, they're also winning. Like, they're not winning all the time. It's a little bit closer in terms of competition at that age bracket. But they won back-to-back World Junior Championships under David Carl, who is arguably the best coach in college hockey. He coaches for Denver. And so for this tournament, it hasn't been the usual, like what I have seen in the under 18. Like Team USA has been playing a lot of like close games. They had a very close game. Like they had a game against the Czech Republic. They're called Czechia now, but like I still call them the Czech Republic because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
And down to the wire, Team USA was losing. And I'm not used to, and I wasn't used to that because they're usually Team USA in the under 18 is absolutely smoking everybody until they get to the final, get the gold medal game. And they came back and won. So I'm like, all right. Because I was having a thought watching the game, being like, maybe they're just not that great this year. Maybe it's just like a little like it's gotten tightened up in terms of the competition. So it's just like, all right, we're not going to smoke everybody 9-0. They smoked Switzerland 9-0, but Switzerland's developmental program just isn't where will probably be in a few years because Switzerland has made a lot of great strides in hockey.
Yeah, big time.
And then they had a knockout drag-out fight with Sweden, that was a good game, but also at the same time, like USA had to come back. And then Germany, they had a tight game too. And then they played Latvia in the quarterfinal. So I'm dating myself in terms of where we are in terms of the tournament, but even that was a relatively close game where it was 3-2. Team USA was up 3-0, and they took a bunch of dumb penalties. But they're under 18, so
yeah.
I don't like criticizing kids like that.
Yeah, no, just playing.
They're just playing. They made some mistakes. It happens in hockey. They're learning, and they're going to be good players in the NHL at one point. And then I felt bad too because even though I'm rooting for Team USA, the game that kind of the moment in the game that kind of put everything back for Team USA was one of the players just like shot the puck and it banked right off the boards and hit the Latvian goaltender and went in. It's 4-2, and then a couple goals exchanged, but at the end of the day, Team USA won that game and advanced. But with that, you have to be a little bit more. You kind of have to put some expectation that this is going to be like the best hockey you've ever seen aside. And you're just going, it's like, I want to see these kids develop because these kids are going to be playing in the World Junior Championships like next year. And then they'll eventually be NHLers.
Great way to put it, honestly.
And I like,
yeah.
And there's actually a marked difference between how I watch kids of that age and even the World Junior Championship. I don't criticize the kids. Like, I'm like, no, they're young players. They're learning. I criticize the coach. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And even then, like, and I pretty much don't criticize anybody in the under 18. I'm like, that sucks. But oh well. Like, they made some mistakes, and that happens. Yeah. It's a shame they didn't like win gold or whatever. Like that happened a couple years ago when they lost to Sweden in the gold medal game, and they outshot them like 52-18 or some crazy number like that. But they lost because they couldn't stay out of the box. I'm like, that sucks. They were clearly the better team, but couldn't stay out of the box, and then they couldn't score 5-on-5 against their the Swedish goaltender, and you lost.
Yeah.
But it sucks. But they're young, and they'll get better. And then they ended up beating Sweden in the World Junior Championships to get some revenge and win a gold medal. So that's why I don't like criticizing kids because they're young and they're learning, but also at the same time, in that kind of mold, those kids are still going to be playing, and they'll develop and they'll get better, and maybe you'll see some poetic justice towards the end.
It's the system. Hey, listen, I wanted to ask you, who are the Wild playing in the playoffs right now? Do you know?
The Wild are playing. They had. Okay. So they had just. No, Vegas had just beat.
Yes. Was it Vegas?
Yeah, but they lost to Vegas.
Yes.
Vegas beat them.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to know who they were playing because I saw you were just talking about a crazy goal.
Yeah.
Did you see the crazy goal that happened in the Wild game? I think it was against the Wild.
I didn't. I've not really paid a whole lot of attention to the NHL.
All right,
playoffs
so forgive me. I don't know if it was against the Wild or against Vegas.
Okay,
but whoever was coming down the ice got past the goalie, shot it at the goalie. It hit him in the back of the head and went in.
Oh wow!
That was nuts.
Yeah, well, I mean, those bank plays are pretty prominent now. Like
I've never seen that happen before.
the NHL has
the back of the head.
The NHL, I don't know if that was on purpose or not. I'd have to go see it. I have to go see it. But
nuts.
the NHL has they are lousy with talent now. Like everyone is so goddamn talented.
Yeah.
Like if you could be like a second or third line player, and then they can do like they could just put the puck on the stick and then shovel it into the net. Like it's crazy. Like I do kind of like miss the days where it's like, all right, you have talented players on the first two lines. So your third line was a shutdown, and your fourth line was just filled with goons.
Yeah.
But like also at the same time,
Beat down squad.
yeah. But also at the same time, I will like hockey is my sport. Like I will, if you throw a hockey game on, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, that's definitely you.
But like even with football, I'll be like, who's playing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Bengals versus the Cardinals. Okay, what else is happening over here? But hockey, unless it's like something dumb, unless it's like, oh, hey, this is a Seattle-Utah game, and I'm like, okay, I don't care who wins, but it's on, and I'll watch it until I leave, which will be soon. All right, so since we're on hockey, I'll jump to this. So this is around the time since we're in playoff time where coaches get fired, unfortunately. Peter Laviolette was fired from the Rangers.
Don't like that guy.
I like Peter Laviolette. And then Mike Sullivan. I don't know if he got fired, but he parted ways with the Penguins, and he was a very prominent coach with the Penguins, like back-to-back Stanley Cups with the Penguins. He kind of like ushered in that era of the Penguins where I was kind of like, I remember watching them in that time frame when they were back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, and I was texting my brother, and I'm like, this is not a drill. The Penguins know how to play defense now, because that had been their biggest thing under Crosby and Malkin in their era.
That was Letang.
Yeah, it was just like, well, they weren't really responsible defensive players. They were great offensively, but like, their weakness was like beat them up and then score goals. Like that was kind of like the reason why they had lost to the Flyers in 2012. Is like the Flyers could just get under Crosby and Malkin's skin, beat them up a little bit, and then Fleury was just actively shitting himself in the net at that time frame, so you could score 9 goals on him and win a game, despite the fact that the Penguins would score 7 on you. Like it was.
Sorry, Fleury.
Marc-Andre Fleury.
21 seasons.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this was his last one.
I believe
done.
so.
And
Because
he had like an amazing amount of fucking playoff games. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just saw that earlier today, and I forgot to tell you that.
that was also a part.
Nuts.
That was also a part of it too, because he was actively getting replaced by Matt Murray at that time, and Murray was kind of consistent. But then Murray in the second year was kind of injury prone, so he wasn't playing, and Fleury was lights out in that series against the Capitals. And then they had to switch back to Murray, and then, to the chagrin of Penguins fans and also to Mike Sullivan's time with the Penguins, like it wasn't so like you could make a statement, you make a case that maybe he could have done something, but the Penguins absolutely shit the bed in terms of their goaltending situation, because they had Marc-Andre Fleury, they effectively like begged the Vegas Golden Knights to take him in the expansion draft. Like pretty much, I think they traded Fleury to them. In some shape, manner, or form.
I thought you had to like basically offer up so many players, and they get to pick which one they want.
Yeah,
Or roll a dice, and you get 4, and that was your number. You go.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how that works.
So they took Fleury. Fleury was great with Vegas, although injury prone. And then Matt Murray absolutely shit himself. Like Matt Murray was the type of player you thought he would be like the new Brodeur. Like he's going to be good forever. And then he was bad as soon as pretty much Fleury left. And so now they were stuck in this thing where they didn't have any goaltenders, and then they had to go to Casey DeSmith and Tristan Jarry, and then those guys weren't very consistent. They made the playoffs, I think, once with that goaltending duo. They lost to the Islanders in the first round, and then from that point on, they were kind of just like a team that didn't make the playoffs anymore. You can kind of see that was coming, because you have Crosby, you have Malkin, you're expected to win, but also at the same time, like, what are you going to do without goaltending? But the one coach that was fired that I was kind of like, I get it. I get why you fired him, but why did you hire him in the first place? And that's John Tortorella with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Boo.
I understand. But here's the deal. As I've said before, I covered the Flyers, so I understand their mantra and all that stuff. I don't pay attention to them anymore because I just don't care. But I still understand. Like, I've watched a few of their games. I understand like that what they've done with their rosters and all that stuff. To a certain degree, I try to pay attention to what most Eastern Conference teams, or at least the teams around here, do with their rosters. And so when they hired John Tortorella, they were doing this big shift. They went from they were doing this big shift where they had switched the president of the team. So the president is now Keith Jones, who had been on like NBC and doing Flyers games in the booth with Jim Jackson. And they brought in Danny Briere, who used to be on the Flyers, as the GM. And,
I always hated that kid.
And it seemed like they were just going with a rebuild. I question why you needed to do a rebuild when you fired Ron Hextall, but that's a different conversation for a different time. And then it's like, all right, you're doing a rebuild. Great, you're doing a rebuild. You bring in a coach that knows how to develop players. They hired John Tortorella. And I was confused then. It's like, Torts does not do well with developing young players. Torts is the guy that you bring in to put his boot up the already developed players' asses and get them to go to the next level, a level they didn't know that they could hit. Yeah. And just, let's see if we can win a cup. Like, John Tortorella is the type of coach, like Peter Laviolette, incredibly small shelf life. But the whole point is to win a Stanley Cup with him as your coach.
Was he on what team was that? The Canadian team.
John Tortorella was the coach of the Vancouver Canucks.
And he did well there, right?
No, he did not do well there because they got into like a fight. He tried to get into the Calgary Flames locker room or something.
Okay, I was completely wrong.
He had a short fuse. He won a cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then he went to the Rangers, and he got the Rangers to be kind of like
Yeah, they weren't bad that year, those years, but fuck him.
He wasn't. They were good with him. I think when the Rangers went to the Stanley Cup Finals, they had Alain Vigneault as their coach though, because just the players, like I just said, you have Tortorella on the team for so long, the players are like him or me, and when it's Henrik Lundqvist, you're gonna pick Lundqvist over John Tortorella. You can find another coach that can get you to the Stanley Cup. It's not like there's only so many. But that was always the thing that bugged me with the John Tortorella thing. Because it's like, you brought him in and with the expectation of, like, are we tricking the fan base into thinking that maybe we'll be good? And then not only that, when he was the coach, at least last season, they were pretty good. I mean, they were in a playoff spot for most of the season. And then the thing with Carter Hart and a few other players happened, and we'll wait on what happens there. But they were kind of like, of any of the teams, and I might be speaking a little bit more out of my gore here, but I think that of any team that was really affected by that, it was the Flyers, because Carter Hart was their starting goaltender. And then once he was gone,
Devils as well.
The Devils got like a couple of players, but I don't think any of their players were as necessary.
As good. Yeah. Carter Hart was
their guy.
Yeah.
And so losing them, they had to switch over to Samuel Ersson. And Samuel Ersson was left with an unenviable task of having to carry the rest of the season and carry that out. And he didn't play very well, and the Flyers didn't make the playoffs. Okay. Now you know, as Danny Briere, what you need to do to at least, rectify the situation. We need to bring in a backup goaltender, or at least a veteran goaltender that can potentially help out Ersson, and we can get to the playoffs potentially next season. Briere didn't do that. He had a goalie from the KHL. His name is Ivan Fedotov. I think he's making more money than a rookie kind of goaltender should. I think he's making somewhere in the $3 million range on the cap. Wow. And he did not play well. And so you go into the season. I know we didn't do a podcast about this, but I know I shared with you my projected standings for the NHL. And I said that the Flyers are the one team. I think I had told you that I think they're going to finish third in the division. And they were the one team, and I'm like, they could finish third. They could finish sixth. I don't know where this team is going to go because...
I remember that. Yeah.
Because their team is so young. And so what happened with John Tortorella this season is pretty much everyone regressed. And then the goaltending wasn't really all that good. So it's a recipe for disaster. And I understand why the Flyers would fire him, because he had some sort of line that said you know what? I really don't like something to the effect of I'm going to butcher this quote, but I'm like, sometimes I really don't have the patience to coach this team.
He's too aggressive.
He's too aggressive, but you don't hire him. You know what you're getting out of John Tortorella.
Yeah, who's the GM? You said Briere?
Danny Briere.
Yeah, idiot.
That was a mistake. You hire someone that is right for the job. Now, John Tortorella is not without fault here. He shouldn't have taken a rebuilding job, but maybe he was just like, hey, it's a job.
Yeah.
And it's something new and exciting. Maybe I can do this. I don't think the Flyers should have done that. And now you're kind of tasked with the idea. It's like, all right, what kind of coach do we get? And it doesn't seem like Danny Briere knows, either he doesn't know it, or him and Keith Jones are going to be like, well, what flashy coach can we get next? And that kind of already seems to be like the thing that the Flyers do as an organization. I could go off on a tangent about the Flyers as an organization, a fucking scummy organization that fired a coach once, pretty much for having.
As you can all tell, he's not really that big of a fan.
Well, no, it's just like I like John Tortorella as a coach, but at the same time, you got to pick the right spot for him.
Yep.
Like John Tortorella would be a better coach right now for the Devils than he'd be for the Flyers, because the Devils are one of those teams that are like, hey, maybe we can get to the next level. John Tortorella is the type of coach that can do that. He'll piss everyone off in the locker room, and you'll fire him within 2-3 seasons, but maybe you'll get to the cup.
I think that was the Devils' Jacques Lemaire. That was his last go around.
Yeah, well, yeah, Jacques Lemaire too. Nobody could touch him in terms of what he did for the Devils in the 90s, in terms of just turning that team and almost ruining hockey in the process into an absolute like black hole of defense. Like that neutral zone trap. Once everyone realized like we pretty much can't break through this, everyone just started playing the trap, and it became incredibly boring. Like in a previous podcast, we had talked about how ESPN just like gave up on the NHL. It was not for no reason, because every team was playing the trap, and every game was like 1-0, 2-1. I actually made this claim that we're even as we're talking about hockey. I made this claim to my brother that a 1-0 lead back in like 1995, 96, 97 was a bigger lead than a 3-0 lead is now. Because for that reason, because everyone's just locked it down. Hey, we scored. All right, trap.
Yeah.
And then nobody could do anything. And if you had a goaltender like Martin Brodeur or Dominic Hasek or whoever, like the top goaltenders at that time, Eddie Belfour, you had a pretty good chance of just absolutely locking it down and winning 1-0. All right, so that was my little rant on that one.
All good, yeah.
I have one left, and then we can get out of here, my friend.
Oh, I know what it is.
And in this long-running series of what the hell is Tyreek Hill up to?
What could he do now,
What
Dan?
can he do now? You know, before when I've talked about Tyreek Hill, I have talked about him as just like, all right, you know what? That was like a diva move with the stuff with the police and all that stuff.
First there was the fire, and then there was the then there was a pseudo arrest.
Pseudo arrest. And I've talked to you before about, like, you know what, trading Tyreek Hill would probably be in the best interest for the Dolphins.
Then there was the trade rooming thing that you wanted.
So the police thing, him pretty much demanding a trade without demanding a trade.
Yeah.
So all of those things, before all of those things, I was thinking it would probably be in the best interest of the Miami Dolphins to trade Tyreek Hill, because he's over 30. You don't know how long he's going to be fast, an effective wide receiver. So get what you can get now. Get what you can get now, because God knows how long he'll be an effective wide receiver. And then all of the drama started to trickle in. The freaking arrest thing, I'm like, all right. And then the virtue signal tour. I went on a tirade about this on a previous podcast. If you want to hear it, go listen to that one. And then it was the demanding the trade thing, or inferring that he would not be on the Dolphins anymore. Okay, 2 red flags. Let's ignore all the red flags that Tyreek Hill had prior to this, and just 2 red flags as a Miami Dolphin.
I have something funny to say.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dan. Do you remember the Simpsons episode when Homer's looking for that pig roast, and it's like it's flying through the air.
Yeah.
It's still good. It's still good.
Yeah.
And where it was going, it's just a little waterlogged. It's still good. It's still good. I feel like that's where you're going with all this.
Yeah.
He's still good. He's still good.
And then the third strike now is that, and I know he's had a history of this to some degree when he was in college, but now there's like some serious abuse allegations against him. And I don't want to comment on that because it's neither here nor there for me to comment on.
I don't really know the...
And I also don't want to make it seem like that is why I'm going to say this. Get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Just get rid of this guy at this point. And it sucks too because he is a good wide receiver. And now you're kind of like, all right, what do we do? Because his trade value is crap. The draft is over too. So now, like, what do you do with that? So most of the teams in the NFL will be like, all right, what are we doing with him? I just can't see the way forward with this guy being like, he's like, hearkening back to that ESPN episode where I'm like, headache versus talent ratio. I think of the two players that I had mentioned before on that one, Kaepernick and Shedeur Sanders, Tyreek Hill is more talented than both of them. And Tyreek Hill is still more of a headache than he is talented.
He's taking away too much attention from the team. The team's suffering because they got to deal with his BS.
Yeah, he almost got like he had this whole thing before that game against Jacksonville. Now obviously he played in that game, made a very good play. The Dolphins have significant issues in terms of like, and they addressed that in the draft to some degree in terms of the trenches. Their defensive line and their offensive line are not great, so that's not good. Because if you don't have a good offensive line, you have a quarterback with concussion issues. You might want to address that to some degree, which I'm not saying that they didn't because they did draft at least an offensive lineman. I think they drafted multiple defensive tackles, but you got to address being able to protect Tua. And maybe they're just going to sit on this and hope that he has a really good season and then try to trade him. But it kind of seems to me like the longer you hold on to him, now the more likely he's going to be still a problem because the problems aren't stopping. Like, you had that. All right, now he's going to mouth. All right, you had the police thing. Now he mouths off. And now he's allegedly, wrapped in domestic violence. Like, what else is he going to do? Is he going to start, like, is he going to blow up the cancer ward in a pediatric hospital? Like, at one point, do we think with Tyreek Hill, it's like, all right, man, we have Jalen Waddle. He's pretty fast. He's not as consistent or like in terms of a speedy wide receiver as dominant as Tyreek Hill. But at this point, I'm like, you know what would be nice? Having no headache. Having just Jalen Waddle, he'll be the number one, and we'll just go get a running game.
They're going to continue back with Odell Beckham.
No, I don't think Odell's going back there. No,
but he's boys with Waddle.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think he'll go back there. But it's frustrating to me because I was on Tyreek Hill's side when he went to the Dolphins because I'm like, he's a valuable player to the team. And it's just like, I would make jokes because he would say stupid shit anyway. Like, oh, I want to do porno when I'm done with my career. And I'm like,
he's like a Dennis Rodman. What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's just like he's a ridiculous man. But I was like, and then I would make the joke every time that he would catch the ball, and I'm like, go out of bounds. I need you healthy enough to do porn when your career is over. Because like if he gets hurt, then the Dolphins are truly screwed. Because I've seen multiple games when the Dolphins don't have him, and it's like, okay, do you have a game plan with that Tyreek Hill?
Nope.
And that's also another issue too. It's like Mike McDaniel can't handle a Tyreek Hill. It's happening right in front of us. It's happening right in front of us. He can't deal with drama players, which is funny too, because my brother had said to me, like, oh, the Dolphins should look into getting Shedeur Sanders. And I'm like, he can't handle Tyreek Hill. How is he going to handle like Deion Sanders and his spawn? Like,
yeah,
he's too much of a player's coach, and to a degree, I'll touch on this a little bit, that can be helpful, especially since he's pretty good with quarterbacks, so I'm interested to see what he can do with Quinn Ewers. But my mantra with the Dolphins going forward would be make the Dolphins tough again, because the Dolphins have not been tough for a long time. They were tough to a degree when they had Dave Wannstedt as the coach, but then Dave Wannstedt completely ruined everything by drafting Jamar Fletcher instead of Drew Brees. Like, that's a franchise-changing mistake. Hey, we have 2 really good cornerbacks. Well, let's spend a first-round draft pick on a nickel cornerback. That's dumb. That's a dumb decision. And your clear number 1 problem is Jay Fiedler as your quarterback. And it's like, well, Drew Brees, no one will take him. And then
Wait, Fiedler was tough. He used to smoke cigarettes on the sideline. That's tough.
you're thinking of Jay Cutler.
Oh, that's the one. Also a Dolphin though at one point.
He was, and I almost met Jay Cutler at one point. Were you
at an airport with the luggage?
No. I was working, and he was one of the guests for the event, and I was kind of tempted to be like, "Oh, Jay Cutler's out there," and I'm like, do you think it would bother him if I went up to him and be like, "Yeah, man, how about that tenure with the Dolphins? That was something, right?" It would be like in jest, mostly because like with the smoking meme. Every time the Dolphins won with Jay Cutler, my celebratory song was "Smokin'" by Boston.
Oh, I don't know. I remember something about him being on the league and smoking and his wife or something. I don't remember.
Well, it just became a meme. But the Dolphins, I think I've said this plenty of times on the podcast. I'll just reiterate it for the sake of reiterating it. They need to like go back to that, like the way the Dolphins under Don Shula, who was never in any sort of like weird girlfriend situation like Bill Belichick. So I think greatest of all time still remains with Don Shula. Don Shula had built a tough Miami Dolphins football team with Larry Zonka, Mercury Morris, the no-name defense. To a degree, that's what Jimmy Johnson was trying to do when towards the end of Dan Marino's career, but he could never develop the running game. And then Dave Wannstedt was able to do it to a degree with Lamar Smith, and then definitely with Ricky Williams. The problem is they had no other recourse than Ricky Williams because Jay Fiedler was their quarterback. And then they realized that Jay Fiedler wasn't all that good, so they went to Ray Lucas, and so it just became a avalanche of terrible, terrible quarterback play. But the remedy to, I think, what's going on with the Dolphins, because look at what happened with Derrick Henry, with Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. Look at, and an even better example, look what happened with Saquon Barkley, the Philadelphia Eagles, and Jalen Hurts. If you can get a really good running back to supplement your good quarterback, like, I don't know how elite you would...
Then you'll have your wide receivers bitching they're not getting the ball enough.
But it won't matter. It won't matter. Because one of the big...
You're winning.
Yeah, because you're winning football games. And also, one of the key things that an effective running game can do is keep, one, your quarterback healthy because he's not touching the ball as much, but also keep your defense rested because you're eating clock and you're just moving the ball methodically. The Dolphins under Mike McDaniel, and believe me, I love this style of play, but it's terrible for winning games in like December and January. It's just like, chuck it. Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. And so at one point, they're going to have to figure out the way to win games late in the season, and they're going to have to figure out that unless there's something that happens this season, anything can happen in the NFL. I've seen enough teams that are like, that team will suck. And they're like, why are they 10-6? Unless they have some sort of really big season. And I'm going to doubt that because I'm going to hit X for doubt on the Dolphins being really good because it looks like the Patriots are going to make strides. The Bills, they can't beat the Bills. So the Bills are pretty good. And then the Jets, I don't know what the Jets are going to do.
Well, hopefully the Dolphins have a really good punter and you'll be fine.
I'm just going to watch the condensed games on NFL Plus.
No one watches the punts. No one.
But yeah, like, I think the way to usher in that sort of new mentality for the Dolphins is to cut ties with this sort of like, we have to like wing it all the time and put Tua at risk. And then the best way to do that is try to get something back for Tyreek Hill. Now, I would love it to be an embarrassment of riches because Tyreek Hill is a good wide receiver. And maybe there's a team out there that's like desperate for a wide receiver that would pay that embarrassment of riches. But with all these headaches, at this point, the best you can do is addition by subtraction.
I agree.
All right. Those were 2 rants in a row. You know what? It's actually really good that like I had more things.
He's been really wanting to get this off his chest, honestly.
Well, it's just like, listen.
I'm your ear right here.
Yeah.
And hopefully you are too out there.
Yeah, hopefully you are as well. And hopefully, like, listen, If you disagree with me on John Tortorella or Tyreek Hill, let me know down below. You're wrong, but you should let me know.
If you want the Mets to win, let's go. Tell us.
If you disagree with Mr. Justin and his evaluation of the Mets, maybe you think that they need better fielding or better bullpen pitching, let us know down below in the comments as well. If you enjoyed our sports talk, you can always leave us a like. And make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. I know this is Loud and Drunk Sports, but we're a part of the Loud and Drunk Podcast Network. So that would be greatly appreciated if you could do that as well. And I think that's about it for us, buddy. So for Justin, I'm Dan. And until next time, trade Tyreek Hill.